This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media, sponsors and producers of the Natural Resource Investment Symposium, July 7 through 11 in Boca, Raton, Florida. Whether you attend live or virtually, we'll give you between 50 and 60 hours of programming, more than you can absorb in the 4 days that you have available to absorb it. That means that you'll need to play the conference tapes several times to get all the material that we get you. It also means that we will use time before the conference to interview every exhibitor and every speaker so that you can allocate your time more efficiently and so that you could reach out to them even before the conference occurs, or certainly allocate your time more efficiently during the conference. Please note, too, that unlike any other investment conference on the planet, every public company has been vetted, which is to say, I need to own them in my personal accounts or in accounts owned partially and managed by myself. And today's interview with First Majestic Silver is no exception. I'm delighted as part of that to interview the CEO of First Majestic Silver, Keith Neumeyer, a man that I've known for almost 30 years. Keith, first of all, thank you for your ongoing efforts on behalf of shareholders, particularly this shareholder. And thank you, too, for your ongoing support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Well, it's a great conference, and we enjoy coming every year. Not only is it a fantastic venue, but the quality of the investors that come to your conference are very good. And from our perspective, we see a lot, which is a unique opportunity for us.
Despite your relatively young years, Keith, you've been involved in natural resource finance for a very long time. Perhaps you could tell us something about your genesis as an entrepreneur, going all the way back to First Quantum, which I think is where you and I first met.
Exactly, in your office in what was the name of the little town in California that you had your office set up?
Likely Carlsbad, yeah, Carlsbad.
Carlsbad,
yeah.
That's Carlsbad, that's right. I'm 64, so I'm not that young. I may not look it, but I've got a number of years behind me. But I'm very proud of what I've accomplished within my career. And First Quantum, unfortunately, Phil Pascal just passed away a couple of months ago. I brought him into the First Quantum group, and he vented in his assets into that company that I formed, and we ran with that, and it turned out obviously to be one of the largest copper companies in the world, which is, I didn't have any after 2000. That was a year. It was on, pretty good track at that point, but, they did, we had Kansanshi in our portfolio, which obviously was a key asset for them and still remains a key asset today. But one of the challenges that First Quantum had back then and First Majestic has today are, should we invest outside of our sweet spot? Their sweet spot was the copper belt, and Phil Pascal and the team that he brought into First Quantum were experts in that area, and it did and stepping out of the copper belt was a very, very difficult decision for them. And just like for us at First Majestic, us looking, we're all in Mexico. We can't move the mines. Mexico's not as easy as it was 20 years ago. We're hoping it's going to be improving under the new government, but we've been looking outside of Mexico to look at what should we do as the next step, and we took a little bit of a foray. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit of a foray. We took a jump into Nevada. Didn't turn out as good as we had hoped. We're still very optimistic regarding that asset we bought there. We're still developing it and spending money there, but we're looking all over the place. So and I know you become quite a advocate for silver over the last few months, which is great to see. But silver mines are just hard to find. Looking for you can get a zinc mine with some silver in it, but getting a silver mine with either pure or maybe a little bit of gold or maybe some base metals, over 50% of its revenues based on just silver alone. These mines are extremely difficult to find, and we're blessed with 3 pretty good assets. One 60-40 gold silver, one 50-50 silver gold, and one 100% silver. And we've become a pretty important player in the space over the last 20 years.
Keith, I would argue that part of the success that you've enjoyed at First Majestic has been buying assets that had been milked for capital by their owners, and then introducing the capital, introducing the focus, introducing the love and attention to turn around mines that were regarded by the industry as long of tooth. But you've also enjoyed exploration success. So if you could talk briefly about the existing asset suite in First Majestic and the basic value that you offer shareholders before we talk about the upside.
Yeah, sure. You know, we our goal annually is to replace every ounce we mine, and if we can do that as a company, you know, we can stay alive for a long, long time. You know, we have something in the order of 500 million ounces of silver. Currently, that's 43101 compliant over, you know, all categories. You know, it's not a bad number, but you know, inferred resources, you know, normally get converted at a 50% rate. So, you know, reserves are obviously, you know, the key of the whole puzzle. I think about around 200 million ounces of that is in the reserve category. You know, we're very excited about the work that we're doing at the Santa Elena operation. You know, that's a big land package, you know, over 100,000 hectares. You know, we bought that back in 2015, you know, for quite a reasonable price. Last year, it hit 9 million ounces of silver equivalent, of which I said earlier, 60% is gold and 40% is silver. Dory bars, and that's one of the things that also differentiates us between some of the other miners, because we don't produce concentrates. All we do is produce dory bars, and you know, that is substantially cheaper for a mining company to just simply produce bars of metal. You know, Santa Elena or San Dimas has been in operation for something in the order of 300 years. It's the largest silver gold mine in the state of Durango. It employs, you know, almost 1,800 people. It's the town. Without that mine, that town would not simply exist. And then La Encantada, which is just 100% silver, also dory producer. But we're really focusing on drilling at Santa Elena. I think we've got some pretty interesting things going on there. And our goal long term is actually to even make that bigger. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Santa Elena became our largest mine. Right now, San Dimas is 60% of our total production, and Santa Elena is around 30%. That could flip over the next few years.
You mentioned the challenges that the industry, yourself included, has faced in recent times in Mexico. It would appear in the Mexican press that that's changing. First of all, the existing Mexican president will, of course, step down after a one-year term. But there's also the suggestion that the Mexican legislature will be attempting to reverse some of the anti-mining legislation that's been introduced down there over the last 4 years. Could you talk to the changing political conditions in Mexico as it relates in particular to First Majestic?
Well, we don't have any open pits, and that, I guess, because open pits have been headline news in Mexico, and you know, AMLO is trying to prevent open pit permitting from, and there has not been any permitting. You know, the second he came out with that statement publicly, it all stopped. There's no law in place, but you know, nevertheless, Seminat, the regulators down there won't, you know, go against the will of the government. So everything just kind of goes and stops, and it's in standstill mode. And even we've had some challenges permitting certain things, and we have to go to court and get amparos in place, and you know, try to fight, you know, them in court. And I think there's over 150 current lawsuits against the Mexican government regarding the change in the mining law, but none of that really matters because it's not going to happen. They've run out of time. You know, elections are June 2nd. And there's no hope in hell that any legislator is going to pass any significant laws, you know, a month before the election takes place. So, and there's really no one supports it. You know, the other parties haven't supported it. You know, it has been a bit of a challenge, though. It's definitely not. You know, you've seen the news from some other mining companies that they've, you know, had licenses provoked, you know, the lithium industry, for example, and other things. But you know, water's become a big deal as well. But you know, the new government that's coming in, we're very optimistic. She's known as a business lady, and she's got a good head on her shoulders. She's got a lot of very good people around her team, which we're very optimistic of. And despite the fact that she's an environmentalist, she also knows a lot about mining and has been involved in the mining sector. So, and she's quite foreign investment in favor of foreign investment. So we think it's going to be quite the change.
Finally, Keith, you're doing something unique that I am a big fan of, which is to say you're trying to capture the whole value chain. As you know, I am and have been a proponent of bullion ownership by individuals for a very long time. And you recently said that you would like to refine and mint all of your production. Could
Mm-hmm.
you talk to us about the fact that First Majestic is now a full cycle producer of precious metals? I think that's a hugely interesting story.
Yeah, and it was built out of we've been selling retail silver products since 2008. And we did it just kind of a favor to our shareholders because shareholders were asking, hey, can we have a coin, so on and so forth. So we started that process and we started minting at third-party mints. And this went on for, quite a long time, almost 15 years. And it became quite frustrating for us because we couldn't supply our customers. We had hundreds of thousands of ounces of silver sitting on the floors of a variety of mints in the United States, waiting for them to produce these products that we are. So you'd go onto our bullion store, which you can link to it on our firstmajestic.com website, and you'll see sold out. And it was quite frustrating. We were getting nasty emails from people, hey, we want to buy, but we can't buy it. So we said, like a year ago, I said, forget this. We're going to open our own mint. Mining company, been in the mining business for 35 years. I know nothing about minting. So we had to hire some people, of course. So we got some great people and frustrated a couple of mints out there that I was able to grab some of their best staff members. But they all wanted to come work for a mining company because the difference between us and a mint is a mint that's not owned by a mining company is that they have to go and buy the silver from somebody. So they usually buy it from, Asahi or, whatever. And they have to hedge that metal because they can't take the risk. So they then need to turn it into retail products and they have to sell it. So there's been two famous bankruptcies, which you probably are very familiar with. One's Northwest Territory Mint in Northern Nevada, some years ago. Pan American, ourselves, and a bunch of other companies had a bunch of metal sitting on that floor, disappeared, went into bankruptcy, and we never saw that metal ever again. Then a Republic Mint in Miami went bankrupt, and we had a bunch of metal there. Tiffany had a bunch of metal there. A bunch of other Kakura had a bunch of metal there. And we've been fighting in court to try to get paid back, and we just got a payment last week, actually, for 800 grand, which is kind of nice. But nevertheless, my point is that we don't have that same risk. We don't need to hedge it. So all we do is produce it and ship it to the mint. And whatever our customers want, we can produce whatever we can. And my goal, and who knows if I'll ever achieve it, because it is a fairly large goal, to get our entire production through this facility. And what that means, Rick, to people that, I know this is not a conspiracy, and some people may think it is, but nevertheless, the silver paper market trades 1 billion ounces of paper per day, approximately. And the miners produce around 830 million ounces of silver a year. So just do simple math. There's 320 trading days in a year. That's 320, billion ounces. So that's like a 400 to 1 ratio. And then for us to take our 10 million ounces of silver out of the market, the banks have that leveraged up to, let's call it 400 times. And that's 3 billion ounces of silver that we could take off the market ourselves. And if I can convince the Heclas and the Coors and the other companies around there to put their silver also through our mint, that will be taking more ounces out of the market. So all of a sudden, the banks who are trading all this paper, they know the metal's coming to them, and they know what their leverage ratios are, and they know what they can trade, and they know what their risk levels are. But all of a sudden, they stop getting the physical into their vaults and can't deliver it to the Sonys and the Teslas and the BMWs of the world because we're taking it off the market. Then that's when you have maybe, hopefully, proper pricing.
Keith, thank you for 3 decades of effort on behalf of mining investors, particularly, of course, me. Thank you, too, for your ongoing support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you with us.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be at your conferences, Rick, and it's great to have known you for as long as I have. And thank you for your support of the mining sector.
Pleasure.